Hello there, good people. Patricia here. And today we're going to be talking about why celebrating yourself matters and doing it when no one else will do it for you. Yes, we're going there today. But as we get started, please remember to hit the thumbs up and to subscribe to push it out to other people who might be interested and all that lovely algorithm stuff that we need in order to get more listens. Okay. All right. So this comes up in the context of I recently just did a video about my 60th day video and how I was celebrating that because that's a 2/3 of the way to my goal of the 90-day challenge that I am participating in. So that naturally leads to the conversation about why it's important to celebrate in the midst of challenges, good or bad, and different moments that we experience in our lives, because way too often people do not, right? We are very much still in a hustle and grind mindset. I'm not as much. I've moved past that, but it tiptoes in. And if you're younger, that it absolutely is, right? And that's, I won't say it's okay. I'm not definitely advocating for hustle and grind, but yes, if you're working hard and you're just moving forward. But what I see, whether you're younger or whether you're older and more experienced, what, especially if you're a woman, what rarely happens is slowing down enough to celebrate your wins along the way. And that does a couple of different things, right? First of all, that can definitely affect your mindset and your self confidence. Because if you're not acknowledging when you have accomplished something, especially things of significant magnitudes, then you're making it seem to yourself, at least, and maybe to others, that either it's not important, that it wasn't quite enough, so let's not bring it up. There's a lot of that goes around, right? And it's diminishing your power. Like literally, it's diminishing your power. And so all of that unfortunately feeds on itself, right? So once you fail to acknowledge something once, then the next time it just keeps moving along, and then you get to a point where you want to celebrate, like, oh, I don't want to seem like I'm bragging. Screw that. Are you kidding me? And there are those moments where you get to that point, and sometimes what happens literally as a result of you not celebrating the things that you've accomplished over time is they're building up to be resentment because no one's celebrating it for you. And I know that sounds crazy, but it happens, right? It becomes this thing where, well, I'm kind of expecting someone to acknowledge it and then they don't. And that can be very, very damaging. I know that, oh my goodness, I mean, I've dealt with that myself personally, and then with family members. I'm thinking of, my son, who is an athlete, and when he was in high school, like, he reached this incredible um, uh, benchmark for him as an athlete at his school, all of these things. But it wasn't looking like, the folks who should be acknowledging it were going to acknowledge it. Thank goodness there were folks out in the community who weren't and realized it. But that's when I was like, oh no, we're gonna acknowledge this, and we're gonna do it very, very visibly, right? And there were some other things going on with that, but that's that piece of, Mama Bear popped out. Mama Bear popped out and started making plans. It's like, oh no, there's going to be a celebration of this, and this is how it's going to go down. And I did, but the thing is, we have to also learn how to do that for ourselves. Because if we can't do it for ourselves, how can we do it for someone else? How can we recognize when someone is not getting the props that they deserve for the work that they've done, for a goal that they've achieved? And maybe it's not even something that everybody in the world needs to know about, but it's for themselves. But they, giving them the courage that it takes to say, yes, I did that. And I am very proud of myself. And it doesn't even matter if anyone else says anything. Like that takes courage to do. And that's what we really want to, why it's so important to celebrate you, regardless, is because you build confidence, you build courage, you build that muscle to say, I can do hard things, I can accomplish, my goals. And if no one else acknowledges it, I can acknowledge that. And that's why it's so, so important, because you really do want to lead yourself. Like if you're leader of a team, you can't lead them if you can't lead yourself when it comes to giving high fives and saying, hey, great job, right? You want to be able to give those things out. Sometimes people are stingy with it, right? And maybe they're stingy with it. There's always that baloney I don't buy into of that whole tough love. Well, they need to learn some, tough love. Okay, you know what? Love shows up differently for some folks. And quote, tough love doesn't necessarily look like that. It doesn't look like beating someone down and not acknowledging when they've overcome something difficult or when they're working through something difficult, right? So I'm not necessarily on that bus either. And so I definitely have learned over the years that sometimes you just have to celebrate what it is you're doing, big or small. It's not about size. Sometimes it's about what you've managed to do in spite of, right? Moving through things in spite of, recording hundreds of video in spite of a chronic illness that affects your ability to show up on camera. Hello, right here. I mean, like, there are things that have to be celebrated, and you have to do it for yourself because number one, you're worth it. Number two, you're worth it. Number three, you're worth it. There we go. You're worth it. You deserve it. It deserves to be acknowledged, right? And then there's that piece of when you're celebrating yourself, whether it's public, whether it's privately or publicly, and sometimes it is a public acknowledgement of getting through something. That's also a matter of confidence and courage of not being concerned about what someone else thinks. Oh, well, they think through all that. Yes, I am. Today, yes, I am. Yes, I am. Because their lack of confidence, their insecurity is not your problem. Hard lesson to learn. I've learned that over some time, not being worried about what someone else thought or what they're thinking about something. And it's like, that's not my problem. That's their problem. Because I'm going to be over here celebrating all of this hard work that I just did, the things that I'm still working through, the accomplishments. I'm celebrating stuff that hasn't even happened yet. Why? Because I can, and I know that it matters. And guess what? There are people watching you. And, people will say, oh, there's some little girls watching you. No, there's some grown folks watching you. There are grown people watching you and learning how to uh, to be more courageous, to be more confident, to speak up for when they, when they've accomplished something and being able to celebrate it and being able to share it with someone like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I just did X. Yay, let's go. You know, and it's important to be able to do that and to be an example that others can model, because unfortunately sometimes we don't have good models. We don't have good role models when it comes to celebrating yourself, not in a braggadocious, gross, I'm the king of the world type of way, right? We're not talking about that. We're talking about, hey, so and so, I'm super excited. I just made it to my 100th day of work. Because right now in today's world, that might be a thing, right? People need to celebrate that. Um, or it could be very much much more private, and which gets to the conversation about who are you sharing your wins with, because this is when some discernment and some wisdom need to enter the room, because there comes a time, it's unfortunate but it's real, there comes a time when everybody does not deserve to hear about the great things that are happening to you or for you or with you, because there are haters. Bottom line, there are haters, and haters will come and smile in your face, and you need to be more discerning about that. And you can acknowledge, like, oh yeah, I've had some great things going on and I'm excited, but I'm keeping it private right now. And then you share it with who you trust, who folks who are willing and able to support you, able to celebrate you. And unfortunately, they're not always the ones closest to you. Learned that the hard way down through the years, right? Sometimes they can be hundreds or thousands of miles away, and I will shoot them a DM or a voice message or whatever. I'm like, hey, and that's perfectly okay. Actually, it's preferred, probably. Because what you don't need is negativity in your ear about something that you have just busted your butt to accomplish or to get to, and then someone questioning, oh, was it really about that? Was it really all that? Or why come, like a little kid, why come that didn't, happen this way? No. If you want to have a reflection moment and sit down and do a debrief with someone, you get to select that. You don't have to have someone uh, deciding that for you and putting you on the spot with that, because people will do that and they will do it in front of other people. Not cool, right? So that's another reason why it's really important to also be very discerning as you continue to grow, as your goals and your dreams um, get bigger, and you start accomplishing steps along those things. And here's the thing: remembering to celebrate the steps along the way, because some people will not do that. They're like, it's all or nothing. You got to get to the mountaintop, forgetting that it took you 1,000 steps to get there, and being able to celebrate every step along the way, right? So you want to be able to do that. You definitely want to be able to lean in, and that's why it matters, because people are not going to be there, for you all along those 1,000 steps, but they see you when you reach that mountaintop. They're like, oh yes. And people will come around, but it's like, yeah, no, let me stick with some of these folks who was here on step number 599 when I thought I was going to fall out, and when I got to step 800, right? These are the things we have to talk about and recognize for ourselves, and then share and grow accordingly, right? You're going to be growing, but sharing that out, building upon that, because when you start to celebrate these quote smaller things, it'll teach you to celebrate even smaller things for the future, because what's small now will seem minuscule later, right? But you just keep doing it. And again, you're building your own foundation so that you don't have to rely on, the validation of someone else. It's great to have people who lean in, who are there for you. I'm not saying not to have that. It's absolutely fantastic. And There are going to be moments when those people are not around, or there's really more naysayers than, hey, let's celebrate. And you still have to be able to celebrate if you're standing by yourself. So exercise that muscle. It doesn't have to be big. If you got up this morning and made a pot of coffee when you really felt like rolling back over and going back to sleep, congratulations. I will celebrate that one for sure with you. Uh, I'm very deliberate, I will say, about my coffee in the morning. So, but whatever that thing is, I'm in jest a lot here, but it is a very serious thing to recognize those steps along the way. Okay. And I highly encourage you to do that, to sit down and do a little, a little reflection about, where have I not been celebrating myself? Where are the things that I haven't given myself credit for accomplishing long before the quote big thing happened? Because those things matter too. And then to help you with celebrating, share that with someone. You could say, hey, I know there was this big thing that happened, but this thing down here, this was the tipping point. This is really what got me to continue on. And I want to make sure that someone else knows that, so that when I get to that point again, you can be like, hey, keep going, do the thing, right? Get your cheer squad ready. But internally, you start there. You start with that cheer squad of one internally and then build from there. Okay? All right. I hope this has been helpful to someone. I would love to hear from you down in the comments. If it has, or DM me. And yeah, because I love a great story, and I love hearing when folks actually go back and implement some of the things that we've talked about. All right, take care, and we will see you again tomorrow. Bye.